Of Taking Back Your Body theme song, performed by Allie.
Hi, Talk. Would you like to know where your lettuce really grows? Come on down to the farmhouse down the street. It starts with the farmer, and the farmer plants the seed. And when we all pitch into the local bin, we get more what we need. Oh, oh, taking back your body, be the hand that feeds. Taking back your body, veggies rich and green. Oh, oh, taking back your body, doing what we might. So take back your body and fight the local fight.
Welcome to Taking Back Your Body. I'm Andrew, your host. And today we're cooking up a storm, and we went to Saratoga Apple in Schuylerville on Friday and had a visit with Nate Darrow, who's the owner over there.
Yes, hello. I'm Nate Darrow, owner of Saratoga Apple in Schuylerville. We like to think of ourselves as part of a growing local food movement. I used to sell apples wholesale, and now everything we grow, apples, asparagus, raspberries, plums, cherries, pork, everything we grow, we sell direct to the consumer.
And so apples are the theme tonight, and we're making applesauce, we're making an apple crisp, we're making some kind of apple and potato and spinach deal, and then also an apple and carrot salad. I don't have an peeler, so I'm just going to be using my knife, and I'll show you a fairly quick and painless way to peel apples, because I'm going to have to do it a lot. So you just cut off the top and bottom, then go roughly down the side like this. You don't really have to worry, about getting all of the skins off, just because, I don't know, I don't worry about it. So if you're one of those worriers, then you can get them all off. But I've got 4 different kinds of apples here, and they were recommended to me by Nate. And I don't really know much about them, but he is kind of an apple guru and knows exactly what he's talking about. So I took his word, and hopefully it'll turn out all right and nice. These are Cortland apples. You can, and then I've got Empire, Ida Red, and Crispin. Last episode, I talked a bit about industrial farms, large-scale farms, and I realized that it may not have been quite clear what I was talking about. When I say industrial farms, or more generally, the industrial food system is one which the base driving mechanism is that of profit. And in these industrial systems, they're basically looking to drive down the prices of inputs that are going into their farm and maximize the profit and productivity of their farms, and that usually comes at the price of the ecological nature of the land. You're compromising systems, you're degrading the environment just so that you can maximize your output. And at the base of that industrial logic, I suppose, that industrial method of farming is the monoculture. Traditionally, farms were composed of a wide variety of both plants and crops. And the farm system would rely on the ecological interactions of the different parts of the farm. Each individual animal or crop would serve a distinct purpose. For example, the horse would pull the till, which would cultivate the land, which would grow the oats that would then go to feed the horse. The chicken would follow around the horse and pick through its poo to both spread the manure, but also to feed on the small microorganisms and bacteria that live in the manure. And that also serves as a natural pesticidal function by taking out potentially harmful bacteria and bugs. Then along came World War II, and with it 3 significant technological advances. One is the synthetic production of fertilizer, another is the advent of gas-powered farm machinery, and the third is the invention and cultivation of high-yield crops. Now, when you place synthetic fertilizer into the soil, you no longer need the horse to provide the manure for you. and that becomes an external cost that you no longer need as a farm. Then, with the high-yielding varieties of crops, farmers could dedicate entire farms to just one crop. Now, the tractor has, in effect, taken out all of the animals, and now this is the most important animal on the farm. The farmer uses oil to power this instead of sunlight to power these, not the barn. And that would cultivate just giant swaths of just a single crop. And this is what we call monoculture, is when you only grow one crop in a large area. And the most famous example of a tragedy related to monoculture is the Irish potato famine of the 1840s. And a modern day example, Mr. Goat wants you to know. In America, we have come to rely on two stable crops, corn and soy. Now, when you have these large swaths of just one crop, they become very susceptible to both pests and weeds. Now, these homies are going to represent pests and weeds, and they're eating my crop. And because I've come to rely on the tractor and synthetic fertilizers, I have no other animals, namely the chicken, to eat them. So what farmers have come to do is take synthetic pesticides and synthetic herbicides and just douse the land in them. Now, see, the problem with this is that these are very often neurotoxins and very toxic chemicals that leach into our groundwaters and accumulate in our bodies when we eat these so-called miracle crops. And they become very dangerous to not only ourselves, but the land. So, now I'm going to take a pot. I'm going to put all of these apples right in there. Put the apples in there with, I think it's a 1/4 cup of water you want. So just a little bit. Again, last episode I talked about not being afraid of water, which is key. So if I put too much water in there, it's just going to boil off. Next, I'm going to peel and core some apples for the potato dish. And that's going to be a savory one with apples, potatoes, spinach, and some other fun things. All right, that's all I need for the potato dish. So I'm going to cut these up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to saute these with some onions in a little bit of oil, and that's going to, I guess, caramelize both of them. They both got sugars, so that's going to happen, and they're going to kind of infuse each other with flavor, and that's going to give you some depth on that savory apple dish. So now I'm going to put my apples in here, and then I'm going to put some oil in, and I'm going to cook them up nice and right. These are just going to kind of soften up and get really sweet and nice. And I got to actually put some onions in there real quick before they get cooking too well. Didn't bring my goggles today, but if I had them, then I could put them on to protect my eyes from the stingy solution. And then just mix it around, put a top on it, keep the heat in, cook it through. And now the next thing is potatoes. Potatoes are going into the potato dish. And I actually kind of screwed up. I was going to get more potatoes at the farmer's market, but I forgot. So I've got these potatoes, luckily, that I just had at my house. So this dish may be a little bit less heavy on the potatoes than called for, but it's still going to be tasty because, right, creativity is key in cooking, and you go with what you got. I've got a mix of Russian banana fingerlings, I think, and these awesome purple potatoes, which are so good, and they're really sweet, actually. They're Adirondack Blues. You can get them from the Arnold's or another farm, which I actually don't know the name of, but they're just really good. They've got a unique flavor. They're pretty sweet. And they're fun because they're purple. I mean, come on. So these are going to go into boiling water in a pan. And it doesn't matter how much water, because the water is going to go away once the potatoes are done cooking. and then they are gonna be fried up and made crispy. Whoa! Don't spill boiling water on your feet. The next thing that has to happen is I'm gonna grate another carrot. So for the carrot and apple salad, you need to grate a lot of carrots. So I did that ahead of time because it is not really that exciting and it takes a long time to do. See, carrots grated, not that fun. And then this salad is it's just cold, doesn't require any cooking, so that's gonna happen last, I think. Next, what I'm going to do is cut up some tofu, because there's gonna be tofu with the potatoes. And I don't have any paper towels here, but what you wanna do when you use tofu, these came from Four Seasons, by the way. Bulk tofu, it's amazing. If you buy them in the prepackaged, I don't know any companies, but if you buy them in the packages, they're like $3 or something. Each one of these blocks was 89 cents, and that's just awesome because it's really cheap. And you know, like I talked about last week, bulk stuff. So if I had paper towels, you would want to sandwich it between paper towels and then press some of the water out, because it's gonna, when I fry it, it's gonna crisp up nicer if there's less water. So I'm gonna cut these into really little cubes. Actually, so I'm gonna cut it once lengthwise. So you got two kind of patty deals, and then just checkerboard it. And then you got nice little cubes. Okay, I'm gonna leave those off to the side. You wanna cook these right before you put them in, because then they're gonna be crispy and nice and not get soggy, excuse me, because that's not cool. So I need to peel more apples. So I was talking about monoculture, and there is an opposite, which is polyculture. And that basically just means that you're growing a lot of different kinds of things on your farm. And that is what they do over at Saratoga Apple.
And then during their harvest period, we're harvesting as many as we can, but of about 15 or 20 different varieties. You know, maybe we grow 40 or 50 varieties, but some of those are minor varieties that we might have a couple of 20 bushel bins of. And others are mainline commercial varieties. There are about a dozen that we still have available in there right now. In fact, we're packing up, here it is February 22nd, and we're packing to go to 2 winter markets tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, Saturday, we'll be at Saratoga Springs and Troy. And during the summer, we also go to Glens Falls on a Saturday. And so we will be there with, I don't know, 10 or 12 different varieties, even now in the winter, spring.
Cutting up 6 apples for the apple crisp. All right. So I'm gonna check on my potatoes. You don't want to overcook them because then they'll get mushy and they won't fry well. What is under here? Those should be stirred a lot sooner, but it's okay. They actually smell pretty good. Nicely crisped on one side. And I'm also going to give my apples a stir. Hi! Yeah, those are coming along nicely. And you want to cook the onions on low. Just don't burn them like I almost did, because then they won't be as good. Also, don't touch metal that's hot with your hands.
But here in the humid east, yeah, we do have more disease problems, so we still are using some pesticides on our apples, but we've tried to get partway there by going to organic fertilizers.
Just cut them up coarsely, it doesn't matter. No one's gonna be inspecting your apple pieces. No one's gonna be inspecting your apple bits. So my apple for the pie is chopped. They are gonna go into a bowl of this caliber. And then into that bowl is gonna go a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of raisins, a little bit of nutmeg, all of which I have over here. You want approximately a half cup of this stuff, brown sugar. Put in a little more, it's just gonna make it taste better, don't worry. And then you just want a dash of each of these things. So dashed, and that one too. And then I'm gonna check on the potatoes again, which are probably done there, fairly small chunks. When you're boiling things, the smaller they are, the faster they'll boil. So just stirring in the apples into that was nutmeg and cinnamon I put in. Mixed. So this can be put aside just until you finish cooking everything else. Now, I'm going to start frying up the tofu. Actually, what you want to do is turn on your pan before you fry it to get the oil nice and hot, because then when you put it in, it's just woo! Cast iron pans. What am I going to work on now is the question. I'm going to see if these are done. To tell when your potatoes are done, you just want to be able to take a spoon or something blunt, and it should be able to cut it nicely. And now I'm going to drain them. All right, potatoes are drained. I dropped a few, so I'm going to grab them, which are still pretty hot. And then you're also going to fry those. Stir these up. They're cooking nicely. I'm going to turn that down again. So this is just apples and onions. And those are going to go in with the potatoes eventually. These are actually looking pretty good. The onions are translucent and the apples are browned. So I'm actually just going to turn this off. I can figure out how. Yeah, done. So oil, I'm going to put a little more oil in because I'm going to put the potatoes in there too. Let that heat up and come grab my tofu.
You basically, to call yourself organic, you have to be certified organic. And third-party certification, well, some people feel that if they're already selling direct to the consumer and they have relationship with their customers, that they basically don't need the third-party certifications.
Whew. Damn. So just throw tofu into pan with oil. Simple. And then once your tofu's in, kind of arrange it in a single layer. And don't touch it! Because when you're frying tofu, if you're fooling with it, it's not going to really get crispy. And texture is really key with tofu because a lot of people don't like it because of texture, and crispy is generally good in people's minds. I'm actually going to make my pie crust because that's got to go in shortly. Pie crust also is very simple. You just want 2 cups of quick oats, not instant, because those cook faster, but not too fast, I guess. I don't know. And then about a cup of flour. That's too much. Flour. And then just a dash of cinnamon again. That's nutmeg. You want to put in earth balance or butter. It's the same thing, really, in baking. I made it both ways, and this works fine. I don't have anything to put it in with, so you need about a lot. Yeah, baking takes a lot of butter, so about a stick and a half. I think that's 3/4 of a cup. And then you just want to press it in. Like, I guess I shouldn't have used this, but just mix in the butter into the dry ingredients, thusly. Just press it down, mix it in. It takes a while, but it'll get there.
Well, in effect, large corporations become interested, because there's so much money in organic, in getting the rules broadened so that they can do practices that some of these smaller growers who don't even call themselves organic wouldn't do in the first place.
So this is the butter's almost all the way incorporated, but I need to check on this stuff. Apples need to be checked on. They're done. Oh yeah. So my apples dried out quite a bit, so I just put in some more water, and that's going to help them mash up. And just let them chill. I like to make it a little chunky, so I'm just gonna mix it up like that, and there's applesauce. Those are frying. I need to do some stuff for my salad. Let's see, in terms of apples, at the beginning of the century in 1900, there were approximately 7,100 varieties of apple, and in 1994, 88% of them had been lost simply due to consolidation of those crops. And the same thing is happening to our farmers.
Pesticides, fertilizers, and the tractor. The sum of these three brought the loss of America's small farms to be. The monoculture enticed by offering high yield and high profit. Many farmers hopped on board, but later they could not get off of it. Eventually, the chemicals spoil the land, and thus the treadmill begins. Big companies offer to lend a hand, but they are truly the pigs. To the economy, agribusiness is truly prized. A single company may own seed patents, farm equipment, processing plants, slaughterhouses, and distribution. It is by this method that our food system has become verticalized. Agribusiness tells farmers, get big or get out. They drive down sales prices and say fertilizer will continue to work, no doubt. Monocultural farms can turn a profit at low margins, but smaller farms cannot compete, much to their chagrin. For the big guys, this is fine. With a wave, they say, good luck in the unemployment line. Between the 1930s and 1990s, the number of American farms dropped from 7 to 1.8 million. If this trend continues, this will be our own grave we're digging. So pitch in, lend a hand. With your support, we can bring the system back to where it began.
So you just want to stir these around. Once they've been cooking for a while, then you can agitate them because you're letting them get nice and brown on one side. That's all that moisture, making the oil go crazy right in there. And you just kind of want to, if you're using bigger pieces of tofu, then you can turn them each individually and make sure they're brown on every side, but there's a lot of little ones in there, so just kind of stir them around. It's not going to screw up too badly. I'm going to chop some spinach now. And I've got some spinach here from the Arnold's farm. They're one of the other vendors at the farmer's market. And they've got good spinach, what can I say? Spinach is a really good food for anyone, really, vegetarians too, because it has a lot of iron, which generally comes from meat. And so, you know, it also has a ton of other things like folic acid, vitamin A. It has a lot of vitamin A actually, which is good because if you don't have enough of that, you go blind. And I think I'm going to put in some more apples to this. And just kind of put some elbow grease into it. Just grate them. And I think I'm put in 4 apples. It called for 3. Didn't quite get them all in, so I think that'll probably be good. And then this recipe also calls for 1/2 cup of each of the following: 2 kinds of raisins and cranberries? Yeah, so I've got only 1 kind of raisin because they didn't have golden at 4 Seasons. But I've got, these are I think called flame raisins, but 1/2 cup's not that much, so you just put a little bit in. Then I've got a few cranberries I'm going to put in, and some goji fruit, or goji berries, which are interesting, something that's tropical sounding, so that's going to make it tropical. And then it's a citrus salad. I'm going to put in some orange juice. I got these blood oranges, which are not local, but they're going to make it, just give it another level of citrus because they're really colorful and flavorful. So that tofu is browned up nice, and these potatoes are good enough. So I'm going to let this tofu cook a little bit longer. And in the meantime, I'm going to peel one of these oranges and then cut it up. So just kind of roughly dice them and throw into the salad there. So now, I'm going to put both my spinach and my tofu in with the potatoes. If I can find my towel, the tofu will go in. Oh yeah! All right, so we almost have a dish. That'll go in, and then get the apples and onions going in there too. This is turning out pretty all right. Then just give that a mix. You kind of, at this point, you kind of just want to heat up the spinach, and I'll just see if I can get you a shot of this here. Yeah. So you can see you got some good green color in there, and you got the purple. Like I said, just let that heat up, and that'll be ready in just a few minutes. Really just enough for it to warm through. I'm going to turn it down just a touch. And we've got applesauce in here. You could put some cinnamon and or nutmeg and or raisins into the applesauce, but I think I'm just going to leave it. It's got a lot of flavor from that prolonged cooking period. This calls for 6 ounces of orange juice. I'm not really sure how much that is because, oh yeah, there it is. Got it. See, I'm measuring into there. And then mix it. I think I need some more raisins in this. So the only thing left is the pie, which is not quite ready to go in. I need to mash this up some more.
I think the integrity of the food that is available at, for example, the Saratoga Springs Farmers Market is way up there because it's a lot of small vendors that are just producing a little bit and bringing it directly and putting it in the consumer's hands.
All right, so my cobbler crust is just about done. You can see, I don't know if you can see, it's clumping when I squeeze it together like that. So I'm going to take some crust and spread a very thin layer on the bottom of the pan and just press it down like so. And just kind of spread it evenly throughout. And then take your apples, just dump your apples right on top of that. And they've been kind of marinating in their juices. And then spread the rest right on top. Press it down. And you don't really have to worry about covering it all. If you've got enough, do it. I'm going to leave just a very thin layer on the top. And so that's ready to go in the oven. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes in 375-degree oven. So we're going to go throw that in there and get back to it. But for now, I'm going to, I guess, serve up a plate of dinner. And just kind of make it look pretty. And I guess there's a meal. So before I plate up the other guys, I'm going to make my book recommendation like I'm going to every week. So this week it's Animal Vegetable Miracle by Barbara Kingsolver. It's kind of the story of her family's year-long trial of eating only local foods. She weaves together the narrative of her story and then also brings in a lot of overarching issues of the locavore movement. So interesting, engaging, check it out. So 45 minutes have elapsed and we have cobbler. Nicely browned. Apples poking through on the edges. Done. Cobbler. Crisp.
Would you like to know where your lettuce really grows? Come on down to the farmhouse down the street. It starts with the farmer, and the farmer plants the seed. And when we all pitch into the local bin, we get more what we need. Oh, oh, taking back your body, be the hand that feeds. Taking back your body, veggies rich and green. Oh, oh, taking back your body, doing what we might. So take back your body and fight the